Everybody, come on in. We're going to get started in about 45 seconds. All right. Well, welcome to Penn State Berks LionSide Chats. My name is Dawn Pfeiffer Wrights, and I'm one of the 3 LionSide Chat moderators working alongside my colleagues Ryan Hassler and Sonia De La Cueto. So come on in and welcome to our campus. We're so glad you can join us today. Before we get started, we are going to do things a little bit differently in our end of the semester conversation with our Associate Dean. No Q&A will be done today for our chat, and also the actual chat function is disabled. This is just a casual conversation, no hard-hitting journalism with Todd today. So we're going to just take some time and just chit chat and get to know him a little bit more. We are recording our session, so if you are interested in replaying it or sharing it with anybody else, you can go ahead and do that. The recording will be on our archives on the LionSide Chat website in about a week. So I am super excited to introduce Dr. Todd Migliaccio, our new Associate Dean of Academic Affairs. Welcome, Todd.
Thank you.
Thank you for joining us today. I really appreciate it. Ryan and Sonia and I, and there actually were a handful of others around campus that said, hey, are you going to do a chat with Dr. Migliaccio? You know, it's kind of cool to hear from him and see what he has to say about his first few months at Penn State Berks. So I figure we'll start there, if that's okay. Describe for us what your first 5 months has been like. What have you experienced? What are your observations, highs, lows, anything you want to share?
I can honestly, it's been a blur. I cannot believe it's been 5 months.
Yeah.
I keep thinking, I'm like, we're in the middle of the semester, right? So honestly, it's learning about a lot of the processes and policies are and Penn State, right? I mean, we have this wonderful small campus that has some informality, and we collaborate, we connect across, and part of it because people want to, but part of it because it's a necessity with the size we are. But then we exist in this larger institution, and it's just at times, you know, they've got such structure and institutionalization and processes. So sometimes trying to connect those two is a very interesting thing. And sometimes I feel like I am the conduit for all information. And sometimes it's, and I know someone's going to requote me on this one, but sometimes when emails come through and I said, so this is the process, like it comes through me and it gets to 7 a.m. They're like, yeah, pretty much. I'm like, is that a good idea? Like having one conduit into the university. So as I learn this, I'm realizing, okay. And sometimes I'm finding, thankfully, that there are multiple ways that things get into it. So I think that it's just been, it's been enjoyable. I have not, and it's interesting as people keep asking me, like, you're still going to stay, right? And there has been no thought that I'm leaving. I am happy that I came. And even in anticipation of our first snow, I'm not freaking out about it. I did grow up in the foothills. So those of you who have ever been to California, I lived just below Tahoe. So I grew up in snow, not as much as from what I hear we're going to have. But, you know, we would have regular snow, and I drove up to Tahoe and worked on the ski resorts during my high school years. So I've had experience with it. So it's not that I've never, and somebody asked me the other day, have you ever seen snow? I'm like, yes, I've seen snow. It's not out of the ordinary, but I am, again, none of that has made me have any questions about my process, my decision to be here. I've loved it. Coming back to the question that you asked me, what's my experience been like? I really have been in way too many Zoom meetings and on the computer way too much, answering emails, forwarding emails, responding to emails, getting people to email me back. I think most of what I've gotten to experience, I feel like, is watching my poor eating habits increase, watching my hair slowly fall out, and my eyes get worse. So way too much computer work.
Yeah, and I can imagine, and you know, COVID and all of our protocol and just the new way of the world has certainly impacted the way we all do our jobs. And I would imagine that would be applicable to how we transition to a new job. And you know, that's got to be interesting. And there's probably some benefit to the Zoom space for you, but I would imagine that overall it's a lot, and it probably gets old after a while. And you probably aren't out on campus as much as you would like to be. I would guess. I know I'm not, but you know, I would imagine that if this was not the COVID situation that it is, you'd be visiting classes and walking across campus more and having that opportunity to, you know, to have those actual touch points with people in real space, not in this virtual space.
Absolutely. I really want to be out, and I realize I haven't done that. Like we're not to the level that I really wanted to be out here. I mean, part of the reason that I came to Berks was the people, right? And the culture. And I have not been getting into that space as much as I really want to. In fact, what I'm going to do is, starting in spring, I'm going to create a regular office hour, bi-weekly or maybe even weekly. And it's going to be throughout campus. Like I'm going to hold it and I'll post it on the website of, you know, this day I'm going to be here. Going to be the same hour, and some of them I may set up so that in Starfish people can schedule, you know, 15 or 20-minute meetings with me, and others will just be open kind of office hours. And if nobody comes by, I'll have my email. I'll be right. And it'll be throughout. I'm going to try to do it throughout campus, but I will promise you, as much as I told you I'm not afraid of snow, I may not leave Gage as much when those are going on.
I don't blame you. And I love that idea of that random office hour that, and people can just drop in, and I will offer you the opportunity to visit any of my classes at any time, just to meet some students in live and in person. And you know, I'm sure that there are others out there that would welcome that chance too. So if you're looking for that, you know where to find.
I would love to. And I know I've talked to a couple of faculty and programs that where my expertise exists, and I'm happy to come for any reason, to come and meet the students and engage. And but also I'm, you know, I have some expertise too. I'd love to come and talk to classes and answer questions about that, you know, within those fields.
Yeah,
I'm really am. It really needs to me. I know I need to put the emphasis on it myself and put myself kind of present out there. You know, I've made some events. I've been able to see the successes of what our students are able to do when they're, you know, the public displays, to go to a couple of SGA meetings. So I'm out there, but it's not to the level that I really want. And so I do welcome, and I'll have to learn then when to start to cut off, but I'm not at that yet, you know, and I need stuff that pulls me out a little bit more, because the emails are going to be here forever.
Yeah. Right. And
they're never going to go away.
No, and I think that's a really good point. And I think it's a great idea to as you're making a transition. And in my head, you still get a whole nother, like, it's been 5 months, you still get another 7 months or so. So, you know, before you're not the new guy anymore, right? So there's some value in that. And now we have a new semester starting, so maybe you can change some things for yourself. I love that idea, the office hour. I think there's some value in that. And I would pop in to say hi, and distract you from your emails for a little while. So be careful what you wish for.
No, I think it'd be fantastic.
That's awesome. So you mentioned that part of the reason why you came to Berks was because of the people. Now that you've been here, has your interview process impression matched up with your actual impression while you're here? You know, what you were thinking you were going to find, similar to what you have found in these first 5 months?
In terms of the people and the culture, yes.
Yes.
You know, the people that I've gotten an opportunity to interact with, both professionally, and then I also, you know, I've had a chance to meet. You know, there's some faculty and staff that get together, and maybe they all don't want me to say this, but they get out and they play soccer once a week, and
okay.
And it's fun to kind of get out and be able to kick the ball. It's one of my stress relievers. I've played soccer since I was 5 years old, so it's kind of just something that I love to do. So both in that social context, but also, you know, in the professional, being around campus and getting to see all of what our students are doing, what our faculty are doing. I loved, and I was surprised, but then pleasantly surprised for homecoming, right? I mean, we had this big homecoming event. It was fantastic. And so many people showed up to it. And then I find out later that this is not common at the Commonwealth campuses. That this is something that predominantly Berks is the one that's the most successful at this. So I thought that I was impressed before even learning that. And so the interactions that I get to have always been good, have always been pleasantness. Well, let's not say always, because I'm a sociologist and nothing is 100%.
Right. No, and I get that. And you know, with so many people that you are, you know, essentially responsible for, and wearing so many different hats, you're not always going to have, it's not always going to be rainbows and unicorns, I'm sure, as my family likes to say. But I'm glad that so far your expected impression has matched up with your actual here and getting to know the lay of the land. And I'm glad to hear that. So good for you. So my next question, what are your perceived opportunities that exist in terms of how we can further contribute to the local community in education, higher education, as well as in business and industry? Any ideas for that?
Essentially, how to contribute to the larger community, the surrounding community, or in general?
Yeah.
I honestly, and I mean, this is obviously one of Georgia's prominent issues and focus that he wants. And it's something that's important. I've always believed is important for the success of a campus, of having it. I really do. The more I learn, the more I talk about, we really are in the community. Like, it's amazing that people have consistently said that we're this hidden gem. But I meet faculty on a regular basis who are out working in our community. They're out engaging. They're out supporting. Our students are out there. I think it's just this consistent, and this is not uncommon, but it's that faculty are working in the community, our students are in the community, a specific program, but we don't have a structured or coordinated or collaborative way that it becomes Berks in the community, right? And so people separate the faculty and the staff and the students from the overarching kind of campus, because I think they tie Berks campus to Penn State, which is, you know, not here, right? It's at main campus, and that's that tie. And not see the connection that no, Berks is a prominent part of this community, and our faculty and staff have been doing a lot. Now, having said that, I think that we can have a tremendous impact. And I think you asked in each of the areas. I think that we have the ability to expand in almost every area because of the expertise that we have sitting on this campus. Mm-hmm. And I think finding those avenues that'll best benefit the community as well as our students is really going to be the pathway to find. And I'm hoping that we can do that through collaborative kind of means, you know, not just, you know, one program is out working with the school district and then another program was working with the school district. It's like, fine, we have 3 or 4 programs that want to work with, let's say, the Reading School District. Let's figure out to do that in a collaborative way so that it's more impactful and effective. But also it might be more efficient, right? We'll reduce the amount of resources that we're doing for outreach. So I think, I don't know if that answers your question, but it's really, I am all about how do we highlight what we're doing, but we highlight it as this is Berks coming out and working with you. And one of the ways to do that is through collaborative kind of fashion, that you've got, you know, a program in science and a program in Haas that have reached out and are working that. And then another issue with a program in EBC and one in Haas, and they've reached out. So it becomes less about the specific programs who get the credit and get the impact because there's the expertise, but that Berks becomes the representation. And I think what that does is why I think that's so important is that exponentially impacts our representation in the community. And what we end up becoming is an anchor college, right? The larger community starts to look to us for things, look to us for expertise, look to us for resources and support, to use our facilities, for us to come to them. Like, the more that they see us as a campus doing this, the more they will think about us as a campus, as a resource.
Right, and as their first line of thought, their first stop on their thought process is Berks, not anybody else. And we do have such robust opportunities with our faculty and our staff, and that has been very clear to me over the last 18 months doing these LionSide chats and having our faculty come and talk to our campus and our community through this platform. My mind has been blown by some of the things that I have learned about that our faculty do that I wouldn't have known. So I hope that you are able to work with George or figure out a way to capitalize on that a little bit more, because there are so many good things that we're all doing that would help become that anchor campus. So I'm glad you mentioned that.
Well, and I think that we have to be ready. We need to do the work here on the campus so that we're ready when they start coming to us, that we know we have a process for engaging, of connecting them to faculty, connecting them to classes, connecting them to the facilities. Like there's a clear process. Who do we go to? What's the process that it gets established, right? We need to know a litany of what are the expertise that are sitting on this campus that we can immediately have a process. Oh, that goes to this person. They look it up and go, yes, so-and-so does have a background on that. And we can they can facilitate a process for you. And I think the more we're coordinated and structured and ready for that, the more impactful it comes. Because if we start establishing ourselves as this anchor college, because we're out there, and then people start coming to us and we're not prepared to respond, not to say that we don't want to, we're not prepared, that's going to have a hugely negative effect, because they'll think of like they're not an anchor, that we can't really rely on them because they're not ready for us. Right.
So it's really getting our own house together and making our process and know what happens when the doorbell gets rung, and it's and who answers it and who takes them to what room or all of those details. That would really, what did you like that?
No, I love the analogy of it being a party, right? Like you don't wait until the first person knocks on the door and go, I should make the dip.
No, the dip has to be ready. So that way, when the doorbell gets rang, somebody answers the door. All right, well, do I need to take your coat? Do you want to go to the snack table first? Do you need to meet the people in that room over there? So, that I think that's a really good idea. Yeah. All right. I like that as a party too. Berks, the party anchor.
I don't think we want to go to the party campus. That's always a dubious distinction.
No. That's not what I was doing with that. I love that as an idea. I hope to see that as it develops. So here's a little bit more of a big picture question for you. So there are a number of challenges that face higher education these days. And my original question was going to be, what are the challenges that higher ed institutions are facing as we emerge from the pandemic? I'm not so sure that it's really emerging so much as it is, in this current phase that we're in. But what are you seeing from your seat? What the specific challenges are for higher ed in general?
I think there's two that come to mind for me. One is wellness. I think that this has become, our students I know have been pushing this for specific conversation, but I think that we as faculty and staff are experiencing this, to a similar level. Yeah. And I think that as much as we want to look at COVID and its impact, which it has, the stress level that's been added to us, and health risks, as you pointed out at the beginning, I think all the policies and practices and the constants and the multiple meetings that have come up, I think that all that is relevant, but I think more of what it's highlighted is, are we prepared to really think about wellness on our campus and think about it from a real integrated practices way, that what we do can't ignore wellness in our process. When we develop a program or project, have you thought about the wellness component of it? And some of it may be embedded in there already. Like it may be all about developing wellness. Then great, then it's in there and you don't have to worry about it. But have we thought about it in all our practices? And even in, there's some good projects out there throughout academia that have shown that faculty engagement and consideration of wellness in the classroom, and I'm not talking about ignoring the work or reducing the requirements, or suddenly, hey, let's all do a yoga pose while we're in the middle of, a chemistry exam. Right? It is really thinking about, what do I do in my class and what can I change in terms of practices that think about the wellness of, like, without changing the rigor level.
Right.
And that you should never want to change, but it's changing the practices. I mean, some of the simple things that we can do is reminding students on a regular basis, are you engaging with people in social environments? If you've got assignments, do work together on these assignments. That's huge, because it's not just going to increase your success, but it's also a social kind of experience.
Sure.
Right? When I have major projects, do I think about, well, everyone's going to have them do the last week of classes. Maybe I move mine 2 weeks. Is it going to hurt what I'm doing to move it 2 weeks earlier, which takes a little stress off students at the end? Like, and I'm not telling that all the faculty should be doing this. Right. I'm saying that there are opportunities for us to really think about wellness. And on top of it, I want the faculty and staff to think about their own wellness. Am I doing so much within the context of my class that I'm hurting my own wellness and I'm not going to be as effective? And that comes from us too. Sure. From the administration, it's to make sure how much, and look at this. And I know that with a lot of the cuts, that's been harder to do, but how do we then take account of that? How do we have those conversations of, this person needs their time, they need their space. How do we give that to them? Because the reality is, if we continue to ask people to do more and more, eventually they're less effective in what we brought them in to do.
Yeah, and I agree with that. I've been having those kind of thought processes myself in my own classroom, and I know, some of my colleagues that I've talked to, we've had these conversations. How do you incorporate that wellness piece, but also not give up the rigor? And there's value in that, and that's definitely something that I've been thinking a little bit about in my space. And I think that's a really good thing for us to not lose sight of as we move forward. There's a lot to keep track of, right? But I think there's some benefit in that as well.
Yeah, and it's really just thinking that I think that this experience over the last year and a half, 2 years, has been highlighting wellness as an issue, as something, not just an issue right now, but something that maybe we should think about long term, which, if our students are healthier, if we're healthier, if our support is healthier, if the campus community is healthier, they're more successful. More successful means greater impact. And that's, this is not about us turning to each other and saying, are you going to make me healthier?
Right.
It's thinking about it in a broader kind of context. What are we doing, and are there practices that can do this in a more effective way? And that does mean collaborating in a way to, how do we bring this to our campus? So, and you would ask me, I think the other issue is learning styles. Mm-hmm. I think what COVID has really opened up, and I don't mean this, that, oh, glad we have this, and then completely a way that it has forced us to engage alternative learning styles and practices and pedagogical engagements that we may not have considered, because we had to shift our teaching process, because we were forced to learn this as faculty and as staff. Sure. But I think that it's also, we need to recognize that students are learning differently, yes, in part because of this. And some of it's going to be going forward, not just during, like, let's say in 6 months, suddenly, boom, we've gotten out of this. I think we need to evaluate, is this going to impact learning going forward? Right. And some of it is there skills that may not be developed because of what the types of learning styles that have gone, that we need to make sure that we set up supports with new students coming in, that we can help them develop those skill sets. But also, are we teaching to the skill sets they are developing? Right? It's, again, that's not changing the rigor or the requirements. It's, are we engaging these alternative ways that we can learn to teach and educate our students through? And I think that this has really opened up a conversation of the diversity of ways that people can learn and that we can teach. and figuring it out, where can we set up supports to make sure that our students are prepared as we want them to be when they get here, as we need them to be, but also how do we then set up ways that reach to them where they are being successful?
Right.
Does that make sense?
Yes, it absolutely does. And I think that another piece of that is, we made this forced pivot 18 months ago, and
Right.
how many of those things that we did then are really super effective back in our normal-ish space, right? Is there something that you did in the pivot or because of the pivot that was so successful that you want to keep it and retain it? And I think that as faculty, we should every semester assess our classes and see what has worked and what hasn't. But I think that's a really good thought process from a learning styles perspective. So I'm glad that you brought that up. Thank you. So my next question for you is, what is your vision for Penn State Berks to negotiate the future? And some of that might be some of the things that you've already talked about, but some concrete spaces for what you see coming up.
I mean, I'm going to say that I guess my vision, right? I take what you mean by vision. Are you asking me kind of where I'm directing us or going? Because what I see myself as in terms of leadership is, how do I get us to where we say we would like to be? And we've defined much of that with our strategic plan. I have perceptions and perspectives about how to get us there, some of the things that are needed to kind of move us forward and to do that. I think being an anchor college would be a perfect kind of thing, right? But I also, what I envision, what I hope is, I moved here because I liked the culture. Mm-hmm. And what I would like, and I see is grow that, expand. And so it is much more collaborative and engagement, so that we're all working together to expand, to grow, to develop, and sometimes to address some of the problems that we encounter. I mean, we obviously are addressing some right now. It's how do we come with more innovative ways of how we do and respond to things, and collaborative. Like there's got to be, ways that we can avoid the standard ways of dealing with issues by having collaborative kind of engagements and discussions. Right. I mean, I've never ever believed that nothing should not be given the opportunity to discuss in academia.
Sure.
Right. I think that you have the discussion, you follow the pathway through it. And yes, that does mean that it takes more time to get to a final answer. But my belief, if everyone is given voice and everybody has had an opportunity to be part of the conversation, it means we get as much of the information that can help us make the best decision. And then we figure out this is going to really make the most sense. It may take us longer to get to that decision, but when we get to that decision, we know we've gone through the process correctly to get there, and that we haven't left or ignored some other opportunity, some other decision. And so I hope that what we create or build upon and grow, because like I said, this is part of why I came here, is that perspective in how we approach what we do. And I'm trying to do it. I'm trying to send out and figure out certain items that I know that have come up in Senate meetings and have come up elsewhere on campus, that I'm trying to unpack those, because I think that they make sense to have much more transparency about a lot of our decisions. The budget is a huge thing, right? And I'm having budget meetings regular, not as regular as I think we need to have them, not with faculty, but with right now, with trying to figure out, okay, what is the budget? What are the parts of it, right? So then I have a better understanding of where are we spending money in academics, and are there ways to do this more efficiently and effectively where we're not adding to people's workload? And so once it's figured out, it's like making that transparent, putting that out there and saying, look, this is what we spend money on. Let's figure out how to do this. Or if we get to a point, and right now it doesn't sound like it, we're point that we're going to have funds, having a transparent process for how people then say, hey, I want to do this. This is what it's going to, fulfill and move. And what I always say is not just how do things connect with our strategic plan? How can they relate to, retention? How do they how does it connect to it? It's how do they move those goals forward? That's what I'm going to be asking. And then people know why and how money is being, shared, because I want to make it much more transparent, because I want to make that process, because otherwise we're answering questions on a regular basis because there's a lack of trust. And if there's a lack of trust, we can't be as effective because it takes more time to do things. You can't be as nimble. Right. And so trying to do that now so that in the future we can be more responsive. I'm hoping.
Yeah, and I'm hearing you talk through this, and this is going back to our previous conversation about wellness, right? All of this there's some aspects of wellness. Like, are we well within our relationships with each other in terms of trust and all of that? So there's a lot of overlap in that space.
Trust is huge.
Yeah.
Right. And I think you're hitting a great point that trust, a lack of trust in particular, or having a lot of trust reduces your stress level.
Sure.
Because you're not, and this is not just in our jobs, right? This is in every aspect of our lives. If we have trust of the people with whom we engage and interact, whether it's family members or friends or coworkers or, the people who, we work with in our daily lives, if we have trust, there's a whole level of not thinking or worrying about what is going on.
Yeah.
If you don't have trust, there's 1,000 things that go through your brain, and you take time to think about that stuff, and you were working through that you may not actually have time or energy to spend on.
No.
And where does that energy come from?
Right. It takes away from something that you need to be doing, and that becomes a deficit in itself. So yeah, there's a lot with that.
Yeah. And I hope, I've been here 5 months, right? And right now, the trust that anyone has given me is based on, well, you haven't done anything that has hurt us, right? I haven't had an opportunity, but hopefully I'm going to show people that you're not going to agree with every decision that I make, but you'll trust that I've been open and transparent and willing to talk about how I got to these places.
Yeah. And
hopefully see that I've been part of these conversations. It's not just things that come out, and that's my hope.
Yep. No, I think there's a lot of value in that building of trust, and that transparency will sort of spiral into different sets of wellness that hopefully will, I don't know if it's trickle down or trickle up, but trickle somewhere that will hope to even more facilitate more of that collaboration that you were talking about earlier. So when the doorbell gets rang for the party, then we know what rooms to send you to if you want the dip already made. So
right, and you think about it, that if there's people there, I'm not always having to answer the door, right? Anybody who answers the door, and they're like, "Oh, I'm heading over to that room anyway." Yep,
that's exactly it. I love that. I love the little party house analogy here. We talked a little bit about
guacamole at this party.
Oh, absolutely, at mine. Totally. We talked a little bit about students a little bit earlier, and I'm really more so curious some of your reactions to our students, and you said you went to an SGA meeting. What has your interaction and your impressions of our students been like?
I like our students. I think that I was present at I met with some SGA president, vice president, and then I went to their exec meeting, one of their exec meetings, and I hope to be able to be part of others, because I think that kind of collaborative relationship between academic affairs and student affairs is already engaged with them. But the entities on campus and SGA, I think that that's important, because in that collaborative kind of relationship, what they want to do, let's figure out if they're in alignment. And so we're not either double booking or missing each other or leaving gaps. We want to make sure that we serve as well as we can the full of the population of our students, right? And until we have those constant conversations, that's what, the reality is, if anyone does social network analysis, it's the weak ties that actually make things and people more successful. The strong ties, they're important, right? They help with social movements, but it's the weak ties that are the ones that really have impact, because you hear about something through someone else, or you happen to be in a meeting. This is why one of the important things, I was talking to this kid graduated high school and he's going to college. He was actually out playing soccer. So
back to the soccer.
Totally different like soccer group that I connected with. But and I was chatting with him, and he's moving to a different state to go to school. And I said something. I said, look, I'm just going to give you one piece of advice. Join a club or organization, join something. Doesn't matter if it's intramural soccer, it doesn't matter, something that you're consistently interacting with. And it can't just be that it's a one-off that you go and you leave, that you engage with, because it can become a strong tie, but that starts as a weak tie. And the information that you gain just by being around them, you may learn about when you're like, oh, I'm struggling with this paper. Hey, there's a writing center over in the other room. Go there. They're actually fantastic. You wouldn't know that unless you were sitting in that room talking to them about soccer, right? I mean, whatever it is, join that organization, join that club. It can be SGA if you're into, student government. And I say that with students. I say it with faculty and staff. When you get a new job, join something that connects you and bonds you, because that's what's going to be the strength when you're going through some difficult things, when you have questions that you need to ask. That's that connectivity that we don't realize we need.
Yep. No, and I have a student affairs background, which not about me, but my student affairs background really speaks to that ability to make the connections for the students in something, like join that club, get involved, make your connections, because the academics are going to come and go, but your relationships and the people you connect with outside of the classroom are really going to be the things that stay and are the sort of the glue and that string that will sort of be weaved through all of your experiences. So that's really important.
Well, I want to say, I was very impressed. So I was at the SGA meeting, and maybe everyone else is already aware of this, but I learned that they have a requirement for engaging community engagement, right, for part of their funding. I thought that was phenomenal.
Oh yeah.
I think that that's something that's huge and is not done consistently on campuses at all. Like having this connection to the community, I was amazed by it. And I know, it's always hard to kind of get their numbers and do that, but the fact that they even had that as an expectation, I think is just impressive for our student government. And I applaud it. And I think that it goes in alignment with where we would like to go. And hopefully we can support each other in that process.
Sure. And I love the fact that, you're talking a little bit in my words, like modeling relationships and modeling how to do interactions to our students. I think that's really important for them to see the right way for things to be done, right? And I think that goes back to your comments about trust and transparency and even wellness. If our students see us behaving in non-trustworthy or unwell ways, they're going to sort of think that that's okay. But the opposite really holds true. If they see us doing things in a trustworthy manner and trying to incorporate wellness into our own lives, hopefully that will then breed that in their own lives as well. So I like that as a modeling process.
No, that's actually, it's huge. What you're talking about in terms of modeling. So part of my research that I've done, over my years was bullying in the K-12 system.
Okay.
And one of the things, and this comes back to your point, it's really kind of creating a culture. And what I used to always tell teachers is that I can tell you how bad your problem is within a minute of talking to your principal. Because if your principal says there are no problems, it means that they're not open to conversations about what's going on and about addressing it. And on top of that, if you're not responding and addressing the issues of the interactions between the adults in the room, and you're focusing on how kids only treat one another, you're ignoring a huge percentage of the problem or a part of the issue, right? So if you're teaching students about this is how you treat one another, and this is the correct civility and all this stuff, and it applies to any kind of environment, but then the principal, or in this context, it would be, say, the DH or myself, comes and yells at a staff member or faculty member at all,
right?
Because that stuff gets out. that informs everybody else that, oh no, you can teach me all this stuff, but that's the way the world works, right? And that's the culture that we exist in. So I hope that makes sense of how it connects to you, that if we engage in a way is opposite or, you know, tantamountably not in alignment with what we're telling people we want them to do, how can we expect them to ever treat us in the same way or treat one another?
I completely agree with that. And you exactly expressed what I was saying too. So that we're on the same page there. That's interesting. I'd like to do a little bit more reading on that.
There's so you're asking about my experience with the students. Is I actually have enjoyed the little interaction that I've been able to have. Hopefully I get to grow it in the next semester. But I think there's also a part of it that, and we as faculty, and I think our staff recognize it because of their interactions extend beyond classroom kind of stuff. But I think our faculty often do not realize how important they are to the student experience. And I don't mean that we define the curriculum, that we're the experts in the room, that we're helping them and educating them, which we are. It's not to take away any of that. Is that 3-minute conversation with a student about what they're doing during their day that has nothing to do with the class will have as much of an impact than what you will do during that hour of class. Because that connects that student, right? And it informs. What you don't realize is that if you're doing it for the right reasons, meaning you're interested, you're engaged, you want to know what your students are doing, that informs students that they are important, and they are. And this is not about a checkbox. It's not about, all right, I talked to 3 students today, check my box, move on with my day. I'm not talking to any more, right? This is about actually the true engagement for those faculty who go to those events, you know, that are student-based events, whether they're student recognition events, student celebration events, or just events that students are at and get to interact with even momentarily, even in brief moments. You know, you don't realize the impact that you're having on the students. Students come up and talk to you because, you know, they met because they don't see you as people, right? And becoming a person is something that actually helps them be successful. This is why, right, in writing, all of the literature shows that if you talk about writing, if you talk about your struggles with writing, if you require writing in your class and you're talking about, here's what I do with my writing process, here's my difficulties, here's how it's taken me to kind of develop my writing style, you come from being what they look at somebody who's a professional writer, someone who publishes, somebody who's, oh, you can't judge me on this because, you know, you've already got it figured out, to figure out, oh my gosh, everybody struggles with writing, right? And everybody is pained by it, you know. And I can tell you honestly, and I've published a book, I've published numerous articles, that when I get a review, it hurts me. And I have to set it aside with a lot of anger, like that person doesn't know what they're talking about and they're completely off base, right? Because that's part of my process, right? And then I have to come back to it and then read it. But sharing that with students lets them know that the struggles that they're having with any of their writing is normal.
Yeah.
And that's the same with anything. That's the same with any aspect of this, right? Sharing where we run into difficulty helps student understand. I mean, one of the things that I think a lot of us fail to realize, and I mean this just society in general, that every time we transition to a new area of life, whether that's from, you know, middle school to high school to college, or college, you know, undergrad to grad, or from to a job or to a new job, that there's a period of time where you have to figure out what your identity is in that job, right? And you need to figure out, you know, what are the expectations? And it's part of it is learning the culture, but part of that is kind of relearning. You have to learn, okay, how do I do this job? You may know the job from somewhere else, but now you have to do it here. And so a lot of times what we end up doing is we mimic, we kind of, in simple terms, we fake it until we make it, right? I mean, there is some imposter syndrome that we're feeling, but what we're trying to figure out is, who am I here?
Yep.
And it takes a little time to kind of develop that. And that's what students are doing. They're learning. It's what faculty experience when we first enter into the job. It's what staff, when they transition to new jobs, you know, it's to realize that What they just need is support in understanding that what you're going to do is learn to be the student here at Berks, learn to be the staff member in this new position. And that giving them that space to do that and letting them know it's okay to figure that out.
Yeah, I think that's so important. Some of the readings I've done from Cousins and Posner, they wrote a book, The Leadership Challenge, and one of the things they talk about is model the way. And it's exactly what you're saying. And all of us, whether we're faculty, staff, administration, if we model the way, you don't know who's looking. It's like being a parent, and you don't know when your kids are seeing you, and if you're behaving in a particular way, what they're going to take from that. So we all should do our best whenever possible to model the way that we want our students to behave, and let them know that it is okay to struggle with writing or the speech process or whatever it is that you're doing, because we've all been there. And because we've all been through the process, we have been able to come out of that. And that's really good. So I love that you brought that up. Thank you for sharing that, Todd.
Well, and I think that it's important. And I just want to say this for all you students out there that ever run into, and actually this is the same for any of our faculty and staff. If any of you are ever questioning and having any kind of imposter syndrome kind of experience, I just want to clarify for you, for the students, you got accepted here. You do belong here. So I know that's one of the questions. And the same with the faculty who got hired. You got hired. Like, we go through a process to do this. We pick you because you do have the requirements to do these things, the job, being a student. So one of the things I can take off of hopefully let you remind you of, you did deserve it. You did earn it. Now let's figure out how to do it, right? I mean, that's a whole other set of it. But I know we experience that imposter syndrome so much, and it's to remind us that there is a process for getting into each of the levels of where you're at. Mm-hmm. And don't think that you don't deserve this, right? You earned it.
Yeah, that's very valuable. And I think we all need to hear that from time to time, because that imposter syndrome is real in so many ways. So I appreciate that. And I will be bringing that up with my students in future semesters, and maybe pulling this clip out and say, here, this is what this guy said. It's really important. So let me, I'm looking at the time, and I want to head towards our conclusion here. You've mentioned snow, and you've mentioned your Tahoe snow, which is probably very different than Reading, Pennsylvania snow. But how have you acclimated to Pennsylvania, you and your family, so far?
Oh, we love it. We love the community here. It's so beautiful. I mean, Pennsylvania in general is just beautiful, right? I mean, it took us about a week, and we both realized that there were no sprinklers anywhere in our neighborhood. Nope. And we're like, there's no sprinklers. And our neighbors go, yeah, it's wet enough here that you don't really need it. We're like, well, I packed an entire box that will never be used.
Ship that back to California.
Yeah, I could have left it with my parents. You will need this more than I will because you have a drought. No, we love it. Our neighbors are fantastic. We're loving the surrounding community. We're just getting to kind of travel out as we are doing a lot of work on our house. That was not a choice. That was something we found out.
Oh no. Okay.
So I'm more to the point of making that it's that we did not enter in and go, let's get a house and we'll do it, fixed it, and we'll do it ourselves. We're like, let's get a house and it's working, and then we can jump. Oh wait, no, we'll fix this one up. Okay.
Yeah, now that we're here, there's a to-do list.
So no, absolutely. We love every aspect of this, and we're excited to be here. And yeah, the snow, we know the snow's coming. We're getting snow tires for our other car.
All right, that's good.
All weather tires. We're actually gonna, I know someone's gonna send back and go tell Todd he needs to get snow tires. We decided to go with the all weather tires. It's fine.
I have this visual of Todd in his snowsuit out in the grass outside of Gage, like doing a snow angel for snow that he gets in Pennsylvania. Is that going to happen?
I'll do that. I think we should have a first snow image, right? Whoever can create the greatest image with just their body, appropriate images. I just want to repeat that.
No, I get it. That's funny to me. I'm having a
then we can go up to the third floor and judge it.
Yes, have someone judging it. That's perfect. All right, I'm on board for that. That's perfect.
I support that.
All right, that's cool. Maybe we could find a little pizza party or something to go with that. So we are getting to the end. I do have a couple of tiny other little questions that I want to ask. So
Okay.
what's your favorite food?
Pizza.
Pizza. Okay, that's good.
Yeah, the hands down. It's yeah. I have like 4 pairs of socks that say I love pizza. I think one of them says I love pizzas more than a friend.
Hey, that's good.
Oh wait, and one of them says you can't solve everything. You're not pizza. I have an issue.
Okay, good to know. Making a note of that. Do you have a hobby that you want to mention to us? Something that you enjoy doing besides fixing up your house?
That is not something I enjoy doing. That is not something I enjoy doing at all. I mean, obviously, I mentioned it a couple of times. I do love to play soccer.
Yep.
But actually, I am a pop culture geek. Like I love movies. Like that's consistent. I'm running out of things to watch because TV shows and movies and you know, I'm a big Marvel fan. I collected comics for most of my life. You know, I'm a pop culture geek. Right? And I'm tried and true all the way through.
All right, that's good to know. I will keep that in my back pocket for the appropriate time. And do you have a favorite movie?
Oh, wow. I said something about this, didn't I?
You did.
Did I tell you what it was?
You did not, no.
What is my favorite movie? Well, you know what? Can I go quickly? Do we have enough time? I have a couple that I can identify. So there's 2 movies that my wife and I regularly throw on that we both love. And that is The Way, Way Back. And This Is Where I Leave You. Now, both of them are more of, you know, schmaltzy kind of, you know, there's a little bit of emotional tint to those. My larger scheme thing is I really like Henry V.
Okay.
The Kenneth Branagh, I think that's how you say his name. Branagh? Someone's going to tell me, you know, the one. His version of it, but that's because I love the play.
Okay.
Right. Monty Python, The Holy Grail has always been one of my all-time favorites since I was a kid.
Yeah.
So my stepsons watched some Monty Python over summer, and they both came back. They're like, "What is this about?" No, you're missing the jokes.
That's funny. I appreciate that. And yes, you did in an email exchange preparing for today, you did mention the movie and you did not tell me what it was. So I just figured that was an easy one for me to throw out at you. Todd,
Yeah, I honestly, I love movies. I mean, right. I mean, there's movies I throw on. My wife's like, we've seen this like 10 times. I'm like, yep, I'm cool with it.
Yep. And that's what I call the stop, drop, and watch movie. You stop what you're doing, you drop down into the couch and you watch it, regardless of what else is going on.
Yeah, I had a movie, and we're probably we're not done
You're
yet,
good.
right?
You're good.
So there was a movie, and I cannot Stealing Home, kind of a B movie, maybe close to today. Mark Harmon was in it.
Okay.
And I liked this movie, but I had never seen it. Like I'd seen bits and pieces of it on TV, whatever it was, and then it came on, and I was getting ready for work. I just graduated from college. I had a job, but it wasn't like my career. I was going to grad school. So I just had a job, and I was supposed to go. I worked at a bookstore, just, you know, full sharing.
That's good.
And the movie had just started. It's about 30 minutes in, and I was eating my breakfast, I think, and I was watching it. And that point you made is I called in and said, "Oh, I'm going to be late." I didn't tell them why, because I was like enthralled with the movie. So I watched it all the way through. And they're like, "What did you do?" And I said, "It's not important."
Not important, though. That's great. I love that. Well, if we're looking for you one day and we're expecting you, we will automatically think that there was a good movie on that caught your attention.
Yeah, assume that.
I appreciate your time with us today. Thank you for sharing, you know, some like important things with us, some fun things, your vision for our campus, and we're certainly glad you're here. And I thank you for taking the time, and which I know is a super busy day with our first in-person graduation in a while tonight. And I appreciate you taking the time to chat with all of us here today. So thank you so much for that.
Thank you very much. I'll see everybody who's able to make it to commencement. Otherwise, I hope you all have a great break.
Yeah, I know for one, I am looking forward to the break, probably more so than usual. And I know our staff, many of our staff members that I've communicated with really are too. We've all been putting in a lot of time, everybody, everywhere. And it's I hope everybody takes that opportunity to decompress for a little while.
Yeah, so do I. Yes,
Thank you.
please do.
So thank you to Dr. Todd Migliaccio for chatting with us today. I certainly learned a little bit about him and about his hobbies and interests, and also his vision for us at Penn State Berks. And thank you all for joining us. We love these LionSide chats, and we're so grateful to be able to provide them to you. We hope that you check out our archives anytime you wish to listen to or watch some of our prior chats from our faculty, staff, and students to learn about the things that are going on our campus. And so stay safe, Berks and beyond. Signing off until the next time. This has been Penn State Berks LionSide Chats. Thanks so much. Bye-bye.
Bye.